Good morning. This is Michael Didier, and we're in the We Are Israel conference room, getting ready to start our Sabbath class for this week. Last week, we left off talking about the blessings and the curses. Spent the whole day doing the blessing and the curses. We saw that there were really 3.5 times, almost 4 times more curses for those who will not follow Yehovah. I like how he said this in verse 1. Diligently obey. Shema, Shema. Diligently obey. Hear and obey, hear and obey. Whenever he wants to make a point, he often repeats himself. I see that as exponential thrust in what he's saying. When he repeats himself 2, 3, 4 times, you know Yehovah is trying to make a point. Right away, it reminds me of Exodus 12 when he talks about the Passover. He says, it shall be to all generations an everlasting ordinance. 4 times in that chapter, he says things like that. Verse 14, verse 17, verse 21, and verse 42. Wow! So here he says, diligently obey. Sometimes he says, Kodesh, Kodeshim. And instead of being holy, it's most holy. Instead of being hear and obey, he says, diligently obey. Well, it's being translated as diligently obey, but I really like that translation. We saw that the blessings are amazing. The fruit of our body, the fruit of our ground, the fruit of our cattle, the fruit of our flocks, the kneading bowl, the basket, everything is blessed. Even our enemies run away from us. Even our enemies run away from us. It says they flee before you 7 ways. Wow. Remember, we looked at some things. Remember, these are Moses's rehash of the blessings and the curses from Leviticus 26. In Leviticus 26, remember, this was given to us at Mount Sinai. It said, 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 shall put 10,000 to flight. This is what we're going to see in these last days, you guys. This is exponential growth. 5 put 20 to flight, 100 put 10,000 to flight. Remember, Abraham, he had 318 men born in his household. Went to war against 800,000. We're talking incredible odds. But he didn't lose any men. Well, so 14 verses gave us the blessings. But then in verse 15, all the way to 68 are the curses. Oh my goodness. They are going to traumatize our bodies. Severe curses that are going to wipe us from the face of the earth. Why? It says right here, but it shall come to pass if you do not obey the voice. We could say diligently obey, because that's what we were talking about. That's the opposite. If we do not diligently obey the voice of Yehovah your Elohim, to observe carefully his commandments, his statutes, which I command you today. Oh, look at that. today, that all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. Today. You know, it occurred to me, really this morning, I saw something the other day, but it occurred to me this morning that we see this today everywhere in the scriptures. No, everywhere in Deuteronomy. I want to show you something. If you double click on a word in Torah, well, anywhere in the thing, and then you can do a quick search. And I'm going to search just Deuteronomy for the word today. 50 times, this says 52 times. One verse had it in it twice. But 52 times. Now I know that at least 2 or maybe 3 of them are when we're going to the temple. We saw it in Deuteronomy 26. He said, when you come to the temple, when bring your first fruits, we're going to say, today you have blessed me. I have bringing my fruits, my first fruits to you. And there was something that we were supposed to say according to Deuteronomy. Today, Yehovah, your Elohim, has multiplied you, and here you are today, as the stars of heaven in multitude. But you who held fast to Yehovah, your Elohim, are alive today, every one of you. Today. This is what Deuteronomy is all about. I want to show you something. Yeah, we can go through this. Like I say, 50 verses that we can do this. I put in a note today called Today. Today. Today in Deuteronomy. Who is he speaking to? For you who held fast to Yehovah, your Elohim. Is he talking to the ladies? Okay, remember the context clue is there. Who is he speaking to? The Ezra men. The Ezra men. It's always who he's speaking to. He doesn't speak to women. Look at this right here. This is an interesting one. This is Deuteronomy 11, 1 through 3. Oh, you know what? I got to keep this high as I possibly can. Therefore, you shall love Yehovah, your Elohim. Okay, who are we talking to? There it is right there, the context clue. We always know who he's speaking with. The Ezra. And keep his charge, his statutes, his judgments, his commandments. Look at what he says. Know today that I do not speak to your sons. He's not speaking to your sons. He's speaking to the heads of the households. He says, know today that I do not speak to your sons, who have not known, who have not seen the chastening of Yehovah, your Elohim. His greatness, his mighty hand, his outstretched arms, his signs, his acts, which he did in the midst of Egypt, to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and to all his land. Remember, all these men that he's speaking to who now have sons, their dads perished. These sons saw, they were under 20 years old, remember. We're talking to men on this day, just before we're getting ready to go into the promised land. I'm speaking to you, not your sons. Certainly not your daughters, not your women, not your servants. He's really not speaking even to the Ger. He's speaking to the Ezra men. That's who he always speaks to. Well, you know what? These are hard things to see. Joseph, thank you for joining us today. How nice. Well, in this context now, this business about today, I want to look at this very next verse of the first verse that we're going to cover today. Deuteronomy 29, verse 1. Look what it says. These are the words of the covenant, which Yehovah commanded Moses to make with Israel's seed in the land of Moab. These are the words of the covenant. Look what it says. Besides, here's the word. Besides, it's bad. Separation. Separated. Something that is separated from the whole. Besides, the covenant which he made with them, who's them? Okay, remember, we always got to keep it in the context of what we're reading. We're talking about Israel's seed. The Ezrach. Joseph, you're new to this class. You may not understand or have this understanding, but we've come to understand that there are B'nai of Heth, there are B'nai of Abraham, there are B'nai of Isaac, there's B'nai of Noah. We're all B'nai of Noah, seed of Noah, men. B'nai is always men. Why is it men? Because ladies don't have seed. They produce the seed of another man. So when we talk about seed, sons, B'nai, we're talking about multi-generational seed. Abraham didn't necessarily buy them from the sons, the actual sons of Heth. He bought them from the seeds of Heth, which would have been also the seeds of Canaan, which would also be the seed of Ham. B'nai of Ham. But in this case, they're bringing it down a little closer so we understand we're talking about the seed of Heth. But Israel is a spiritually born group of men. When we talk about B'nai Israel, we're talking about the Ezrach. There's two kinds of men in Yehovah's kingdom, Ger and Ezrach. That's it. Nobody else. The Ger at Passover can become the Ezrach. That Ezra man is Israel's seed, the born in the land man. Remember, it was always about the land and the seed, the land and the seed, the land and the seed. This is what we're talking about. Israel. Those are the men, the heads of their households that lead their women, their children, their male and female servants, and the Ger who dwells with them. Those men are the ones that he gave the commandments and the statutes and the judgments and the ordinance to. Moses, when he speaks the words of Yehovah, he speaks the words of Yehovah to those men. Okay, but look what it says. These are the words of the covenant which Yehovah commanded Moses to make with Israel's seed in the land of Moab. Separate, in a sense, from the covenant which he made with them at Horeb. What happened at Horeb? Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, all happened at Horeb. Those are when the Elohim on the mountain spoke to us. He gave us his statutes, his judgments, and his ordinances. Remember, we're still talking about today. What's going on today. These are the words of the covenant which Yehovah commanded Moses to make with Israel's seed in the land of Moab. Do you notice something different in this verse? Usually, it's Moses speaking, or it's Yehovah speaking. But who's speaking in this verse? Okay, these are all things that we have to ask ourselves about. Remember, in past weeks, we talked about whether even Deuteronomy should be included in the Torah. Here, let's go back here. I just want to go back to, let's go back just to Numbers. Numbers 1, we'll be able to see it. Nope, I guess I got to go back to Leviticus 1. Here. We had Bereshit. And then remember we talked about this Vav. The Vav that connects one book with the next. And. So between Genesis and Exodus, we have the Vav that pulls them together. Between Exodus and Leviticus, we have the Vav that pulls it together. We have the same thing in Numbers, pulls it together. But when it came down to Deuteronomy, we don't have the Vav. What's up with that? Same word that Exodus starts with. These. What's going on? I suggested to you, in light of all that we've seen, 12, 14, 15, 16, other chapters, even the one we're going to do today, 29, that there are discrepancies in Deuteronomy that do not agree with Torah. Oh, isn't that such a strange thing to say? We've always considered Deuteronomy Torah. But why doesn't it agree with all the other things that are in Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers? Something is wrong here. In Deuteronomy, we are eating the tithe that's supposed to be the Levites. We're eating the firstborn that's supposed to be the priests. What's up with that? This ought not to be. Is it possible? Let me reveal something that I found in Deuteronomy 31. It says this, "And Moses went and spoke these words to all Israel." Again, Israel, we're talking about the spiritually born men, the Ezrach. "And he said to them, I am 120 years old today." Oh my goodness, there it is. This is why we keep talking about today. This is the day that Moses is going to die. His last day. Is it possible? You know, I suggested it even last week, maybe the week before. When you're reading Torah, learning, growing, changing, oftentimes I'll write something and I'll forget what I wrote. And I'll go back and I'll think, wow, that was really good. I got to remember that. And sometimes when I'm teaching, I'll say it wrong. I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I'm just a guy. Okay, I've dedicated myself to the study of my Father's Word, but I make mistakes. Sometimes when I'm speaking with you live, I'll catch something when I'm editing it, and I'll say, I better go check that. And oftentimes I'll check and I'll find out, oh, I did misspeak. Now, usually when I do that, I'll come back to you and say the following week, I misspoke about that. Not always. Sometimes it's not that important. But I wonder, is it possible Moses is 120 years old today? When he received the commandments and the statutes and the judgments at Sinai, he was 80 years old. Now he's 120 years old. Ish. Okay, let's not 80, maybe he was 82, 80, 81, right in there. Is it possible that he is a bit addled? Remember, we did not even keep the Passover for 40 years in the wilderness. We're going to come out, cross over the Jordan, and circumcise enough men that we have a mound of foreskins. What's up with that? How can we live under the Father's jurisdictional authority for 40 years and not circumcise our sons on the 8th day? Blows my mind. I can't even imagine. So what's your point here, Michael? Here it is. I think, and I'm solidifying this in my mind regularly, that Deuteronomy has got to be treated like we treat, in a sense, the New Testament. It doesn't agree with Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. The words that Yehovah gave us at Sinai, at Horeb, as he says up in this verse, besides the covenant which he made with them at Horeb. What did he say? Separate from the covenant that he made with them at Horeb. Are there two covenants? Well, now we start getting into this whole idea that the Jews have about the oral law. Remember, we saw things about Passover in Deuteronomy 16. Even though 4 times he said it shall be to all generations an everlasting covenant, we're told in Deuteronomy that we can only do it in the place where Yehovah puts his name. And we ignorantly assume that his place that he puts his name is in Jerusalem. Why? He's put his name in lots of places. It says in that same chapter that we can use the herd. Well, since when can we use cattle for Passover? A bull. He gives us very strict directions, instructions in Exodus 12 that it's going to be a lamb or a goat. Now Deuteronomy says we're going to have a bull. What's up with that? Okay, we need to make sure that we're understanding what's going on. We've always got to engage our minds. And remember, whom will he teach knowledge? Whom will he make to understand the message? Those just drawn from the breast? Those just weaned from milk? The answer is no. He's not going to give it to them. Because the message is found how? Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. We see one verse. They came out of Egypt 430 years to the very day. And we don't understand that doesn't mean that we're in Egypt for 430 years. We're in Egypt for 210 years. I can demonstrate it to you. But it's because we want to use one verse to build a theology on. And you can't do that. Torah agrees with Torah. Or it's not Torah. In Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers, we saw how everything fit together like a glove. But now, in Deuteronomy, we're seeing that there are problems. I said it's not crisp. It's not crisp. There's discrepancies, things that ought not to be. Well, with that in mind, let's look at this chapter. Chapter 2, or verse 2. And Moses called to all Israel and said to them. Okay, again, who is he talking to? We just saw it. Look what it says. Know today that I do not speak with your sons. Who's he speaking with? He's not talking to the ladies who also have sons. He's talking to the men, the Ezra men. Not the Ger, not the servants. He's talking to the men, the heads of the households. Those that 40 years before saw the great arm of Yehovah working on their behalf. Not like my little puny arm. That's all Israel. Okay, let's make sure that we understand who we're talking to. We have ladies thinking that they're Israel. And the only way you can become Israel is to circumcise yourself and all the men of your household. Draw near and keep the Passover. The ladies can't do that. They don't have any seed. Ladies follow their man. They are not following the commandments of Yehovah. Now Moses called to all Israel. I put it in green so that we can understand that we're talking about Israel's seed, Bnei Israel, falsely put in here as the children of Israel. Got to understand these things. These are important things. You have seen. Oh, by the way, green, I'm using green. Why? Because this is Yah. Not thee, not thy, not thou, not thine. It's you and ye and your. Okay, they're talking to all Israel. Bnei Israel. Okay, that's why it's in green. So just know that we're talking to all these men. You have seen all that I did before your eyes in the land of Egypt. Okay, well that agrees with what we just read in Deuteronomy 11, 1 through 3. Know that I do not speak to your sons. Okay? We're seeing this. The great trials which your eyes have seen, the signs and the great wonders. Look at this. I really accidentally picked this verse. His greatness, his mighty works, his outstretched arms, his signs, his acts, which he did in the midst of Egypt. Well, he's reiterating it right here, isn't he? Same thing. the great trials that your eyes have seen, the signs and those great wonders, yet Yehovah has not given you a heart to perceive. He's not given you eyes to see. He's not given you ears to hear to this very day, as evidenced by the fact that you haven't circumcised your sons, you morons. Do you see what I'm saying here? He says, I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Okay, who's I? Sounds like Moses, doesn't it? I have led you 40 days in the wilderness. Your clothes have not worn out on you, y'all. Now remember, he's talking about your wives' clothes, your women's clothes, your children's clothes, but they're your clothes. Your servants' clothes have not worn out, but they're still your clothes. Everything your servant has, you have. Everything your woman has, you have. Everything your children has, you have. Your clothes have not worn out on you, and your sandals have not worn out on your feet. You have not eaten bread, nor have you drunk wine or similar drink, that you may know that I am Yehovah, your Elohim. What happened here? We just switched, didn't we? Moses was talking, but now all of a sudden, it's Yehovah that seems to be talking. Well, that I, in verse 26, is there. It's inferred in 29:5. But it's in 29:6. It's there, ani. I, Yehovah, Elohim. Who is this I? That's what I said in verse 5. It seems to be Moses first, but now all of a sudden it seems to be Yehovah. And when you came to this place, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, came out against us to battle. Now who is it? It's Moses. It's Moses and Israel's seed. Remember, it was Moses who finished off king of Bashan. He was the one that gave the death blow. Now, you could argue that Moses is Yehovah's Shalach. And that might be a pretty good argument, because as Yehovah's Shalach, the messenger sent by Yehovah, his Shalach can speak for Yehovah. And oftentimes, this happened for Moses. You know, there were plagues in Egypt that Moses brought down that Yehovah didn't say anything about doing it. He just did it. There were others that Yehovah said, put out your staff, throw out some dirt, different things. But that didn't happen all the time. So you could argue that Yehovah is speaking for Yehovah, or that Moses is speaking for Yehovah. Now, let me suggest one other thing that is troubling to me. We saw that there are many times in Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers that it talks about Bnei Israel. In Deuteronomy, it always talks about Yehovah, your Elohim. But now in this chapter and in the next few, it starts talking about the children of Israel again. B'nai Israel. Israel's seed. Okay, these are all things that we have to look at. Who is the writer? Why are there discrepancies in Deuteronomy than there is from the rest? These are all questions that we have to ask ourselves. How come it's Moses and now all of a sudden it says, I am Yehovah your elohim? Moses doesn't do that. That's not something that Moses did in Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers. But he's doing it here. Okay, why the flip-flop? Why does it seem like it's Moses in one chapter and then Elohim in one verse and then Elohim in the next verse and then back to Moses in the next verse? These are questions that we have to ask ourselves. Don't always think that just because it says it, it makes it true. We have to go back to the Hebrew. I wanted to find out who this I was. And it does say, Ani Yehovah Elohim. I am Yehovah, your Elohim. Us. The ladies didn't fight. We're talking about us. I probably should have made that even green, but I make it us. I made it that brown color because that's what my note was about. Who's us? Us is Moses and Israel's seeds, the one that did the fighting. Yeah, the Ger were fighting also. The servants were fighting also, but the men of Israel were the ones leading their servants and the Ger who dwell with them. We took their lands and gave it as an inheritance to the Reubenites, to the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh. Remember, the ladies don't own any land. Only the Ezrach can own the land. The Ger dwells with the ones that own the land. Remember, it always talks about the Ger who dwells with you. Therefore keep the words of this covenant and do them, that you may prosper in all that you do. He's talking to the men. All of you today, stand before Yehovah, your Elohim. The context clue, yes, there it is. Just to make sure that we understand that we're talking to the men. The woman's Elohim is their man. The children's Elohim is their father. The servant's Elohim is their master, the Ezra man. As is the Ger's Elohim, the one that he dwells with. The one whom Yehovah gave the commandments to teach to the Ger. Now look what it says. All of you stand today before Yehovah, your Elohim. Your leaders, your tribes, your elders, your officers, all the men of Israel. What's the word that they use there for men? Let's take a quick peek. I'll bet it's enoshim. All the men. That's ish. It's not even enoshim. It's all men of Israel is what it says. All men. Kol. Kol is all men. There are no ladies. But now look what the next verse says. Your little ones, your women, and also, they put also the stranger. No, it says, let me do this. It says, also thy stranger. thy stranger, not the stranger, thy stranger, your woman, your children. He's yours. You're responsible for him. In thy camps. They put camp. The word is camps. The stranger who dwells in your camps. Ladies don't have camps. Ladies are part of a camp. Strangers don't have camps. Remember, we're talking about gates. It's the same idea. Ezra lead the gates. Ezra lead the camps. When it says they stood outside their tents, this is what they're talking about. Their camp. Now, this verse 10 and 11 would have you believe all of you stand today before Yehovah your Elohim. Okay, would this make it sound like he's the ladies' Elohim? I think it kind of does. It makes it sound like the ladies are standing before him, that the children are standing before him, that the strangers are standing before him. But what did it say in Deuteronomy? Know today that I do not speak to or with your sons. Well, which is it? See, this is why I say it's not crisp. Yehovah doesn't talk with women. Moses doesn't talk with women. If Moses was to talk with my woman, he'd be teaching my woman to follow him instead of following me. And what did Yehovah said? Your desire shall be for your man, and he shall rule over you. Moses doesn't talk to a woman. He can't turn a woman's ways away from her man. Bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. Carrie can't tell my hand what to do. He can't tell my eye where to look. He can't tell my mouth what to say. And neither can Moses, and neither can Yehovah. A man leads his family, his women, his servants, the ger who dwells with them, and their sons. Again, it's not crisp to say it like he's saying it here. If he would have stopped with all the men of Israel, you stand today before Yehovah your Elohim, your leaders, your tribes, your elders, your officers, all men of Israel. If he would have stopped it right there, it would have been perfect. In a sense, because we're still talking about the leaders of the families. But now he puts in your little ones, your wife, or your women. Also, and thy stranger, who is in thy camp. No, actually, that's your camp. Yeah, isn't that so interesting? They have thy camp. In thy camp. Well, it is. It's the stranger, thy stranger in thy camp. Let's continue. Again, I just want you to see what's going on here. Now, he says this, verse 12, that you may enter in to covenant with Yehovah your Elohim, and into his oath with which Yehovah, there it is, the code word for the Ezra men, which Yehovah thy Elohim makes with you today. Huh? That you may enter into a covenant? Into Bereshit? Here's the word. Look at this. A berith, I believe it is. Berith. Here it is. Berith. A cutting. A compact. Passing between the pieces of the flesh. A berith is a cutting. We talked about this cutting last week when we talked about who the Ezra were. In fact, I wrote an article Yeah, I wrote an article just yesterday. I published it just yesterday. If you get a chance, I want you to read this. It's called, let me go to this. It's on my homepage. So when you just go to weareisrael.org, it's going to be the first one that comes up. The saints, his kind, the 144,000 are the saints, his kind. Look what it says. Actually, I'm going to take you to the scriptures. I'd rather have you look at the scriptures. So let's go back to here. And I want to write this verse down. It's Psalms 50, verse 5. Look what it says. Gather my saints, my kasid. Here's the word, kasid. Kasid. My kind, my saints. Gather my saints. Oh, that's so cool. Remember, Elohim was described in Genesis 1 as spirit Elohim, Ruach Elohim. Don't go with the capital S, small s. Ruach Elohim. Elohim is spirit. We worship spirit Elohim in spirit and in truth. We're worshiping, following. Remember, worshiping is not glory, hallelujah. Worshiping is what we do with our lives. If we follow his statutes and his judgments of a spirit Elohim, we are the spiritual men. Those are the men that Yehovah gave his commandments to. They are the ones who have experienced the spiritual birth, the second birth. They are Yehovah's kind because they are spirit men. Oh my goodness, this is so beautiful. But now look what it says. Who cut? Karath. Who cut a covenant? Here it is, the same word we were just looking at, barith. Barith. A cutting. It's the same word that we were just talking about, that they made a cutting today. Well, they didn't make a cutting today. They're going to make a cutting when we go across the Jordan. But then in today. So how is he making a covenant? And doesn't he in fact again make it sound like he's making a covenant with the women and the children and the servants and everyone? Let's look at the verse again. That you may enter into covenant. Okay, because we don't understand who the you is. We think it's from this verse right here. The little ones, the women, the strangers, thy stranger. Isn't that what we do? Yeah, Terry agrees. That's what we do. Well, he's not making a covenant with us. There's no cutting going on today. What's today? We saw today is Moses' birthday. I am 120 years old today. Even this one has that word today in it. They enter into covenant with Yehovah, your Elohim. There it is, the key words, the context clue. Always when we see that, we know who we're talking about. Who? The Ezra men. Israel's seed, right? And into an oath with Yehovah, your Elohim. It says it twice in the same verse. Makes with you today. That he may establish you today as a people. Who are the people? The Ezra men are the people. It's not about the ladies. We have learned lies. You know, renewing your mind to the good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim is hard. It flies in the face of everything we have previously learned. That's why I say don't take it at face value. We've got to look at it. We've got to see it line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. Otherwise, we will never understand the message. We're going to be infants. Like most Christians, just show me the verse. Well, there's more than just the verse. I have a friend that's not here today because he was so troubled by some of the things that I was saying that flew in the face of Christianity that has no foundation in Torah, that he tied me into some ignorant man who knew the New Testament. He knew the doctrines and traditions of men and tried to call me a son of, in a sense, Belial. There was another word, perdition, son of perdition, calling me a son of perdition. You ignoramus. Remember, there's two kinds of men in Yehovah's kingdom, or two kinds of men on the earth. You're either Yehovah's man, a man of Elohim, and you can be that as a ger because you left the kingdom of your birth, or you're a son of Belial. Belial, we saw it a month or two ago. Belial, wickedness. All the ones who are following other Elohim, other lawmakers and judges, are the sons of Belial. You're one or the other. But because we don't understand the message, we throw out stupid things, and now we've turned out a brother, a man who wanted to know Yehovah's ways, his statutes, his judgments, his ordinances. How does a man come before Yehovah? He's not going to learn it now because of this man, who I actually had to hang up on Skype because he was so ignorant. You can't talk to somebody like that. They're stuck in their false images, and they will not renew their mind to Yehovah's good and acceptable and perfect will. It breaks my heart. This was a dear brother. I hope he comes back. But he haven't seen him since then. Again, we've got to understand these words, that you may enter into covenant with Yehovah your Elohim. Okay, the only ones who enter into covenant with Yehovah your Elohim is the Ezra men. Nobody else. Well, the ger does, but he becomes an Ezra man when he does it. That he may establish you as a people for himself, and that he may be Elohim to you. Yeah, okay, that's good. I am Yehovah who brought you out of the land of Egypt. If you haven't come out of the land of Egypt, we're all in an Egypt. We're all born into some Egypt, serving other Elohim until we come out. We're sons of Belial. Once we come out, now we are a ger. And at Passover, we get to become the son, the kind, the saint, who cuts a covenant with him by slaughter, that he may establish you as a people to himself, that he may be your Elohim to you, just as he has spoken to you, and just as he has sworn to your fathers, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. Not your mothers. Now he says, I make a covenant, and this oath I? Again, is he speaking for Yehovah? Maybe that's what he's doing. But he hasn't done that before. It's all of a sudden we're switching roles in a sense. I make a covenant and this oath, not with you alone, but with him who stands here with us today. Not with you alone. It really should say, not with you alone, with him who stands before us today, who stands here with us today before Yehovah, our elohim, as well as him who is not here with us today. Who would that be? Us. We're not here with him today. This is who we're talking about. We're talking about us. The people of the last days. The next chapter, we're going to see this very clear. How do we become his people from all the places where he has scattered us? That'll be chapter 30. Yeah, but these are the Ezra men of the future. For you know that we dwelt in the land of Egypt. We used to dwell in the land of Egypt. We don't anymore. Remember, all who dwell on earth are going to perish. Those who learn to dwell in heaven, following Spirit Elohim, are the ones who are going to survive these last days. For you know that we dwelt in the land of Egypt, and we came through the nations which you passed by. And you saw their abominations and idols which were among them, wood and stone, silver and gold. So that there may not be among you, look what it says, man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away from Yehovah, your Elohim. Now, can a woman turn away? Yes, of course she can. She's supposed to follow who? Her man. We saw earlier on in Deuteronomy that there will be whole cities that leave the authority and the instructions of Moses. Instructions of Yehovah given through Moses, let's say it like that. And that we have to go investigate. And if the whole city has gone astray, we're going to wipe out the city. If there's a man or a woman that's following other Elohim, witches, following other Elohim besides Yehovah, they're killed. But folks, this has a bigger dimension. Women are to serve their man, but they can go off and serve other Elohim. I put, how about Yeshua? The golden calf of the modern day generation. I used to make Yehovah or Yeshua Yehovah. But we have learned lies. This is what comes from building our theology on New Testament ideas that has no foundation in Torah. I'm talking about women, especially right now. I said women are to serve only their man. How many women don't have a man right now? Dare I say a majority? Maybe that's an exaggeration. Maybe. Maybe not. The ones that do have a man don't follow their man. Many of them are following Yeshua. You know, that's what we're taught in the Christian church. Our priorities: God, husband, family, job. Pastors. Well, that's not Yehovah's ways. Men follow Yehovah, or they should. But all you got to do is check your wallet and you find out who you're following. You're following other elohim. Women are to follow their men. Who are they following? You know, a lot of these single women, they're saying, well, Yeshua is my covering. Duh. You can't have a covering that's not there. The covering has to be able to say, no, you're not going to do that, dear. You may have said you're going to do that, but you're not going to do that. A covering is a live person. That's why when a woman becomes a widow, she goes to the near of kin, so she has a covering. But see, we are a rebellious lot. We now make this invisible man, Yeshua, Elohim, and call him our covering. But many love to do this. Men and women alike love to do this. But they're not doing what they were created to do. I put Yeshua is one of the Goy's Elohim. Am I wrong? What's a Goy? A Goy is anybody who's not Yehovah's man. And you can't serve two masters. First commandment: I am Yehovah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You were Goy, Goyim, and now you're Israel. You're Yehovah's people. Remember, he's only got two people, Ger and Ezrach. That said, look what it says. So that there may not be among you man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away today from Yehovah your Elohim. Don't turn away from Yehovah your Elohim. But see, this confuses it, because now we got a woman, a family, turning away from Yehovah your Elohim. And Yehovah your Elohim's not their Elohim. Their man is their Elohim. Remember, just because a man, don't think husband when I say man. You are a man. Ladies, you need a man. Okay, a man can be a father. It can be a husband. Your man. There is no word for husband in Torah. It can be an uncle. It can be a brother. It can be a grandpa. It could even be an adult son. Just like Hagar had Ishmael when she left Abraham. Every woman serves a man. If she doesn't, she's not Yehovah's woman. If you don't have a man, that is a priority for you ladies. Men, your priority is to leave your old Elohim and make Yehovah your new Elohim. Get rid of those covenants. To go and serve the Elohim of the nations. There it is right there. The Elohim of the nations. Here's the words. Elohim, the Goyim. The Elohim of the Goy. The world's lawmakers and judges. And that includes Yeshua. You want to serve a spiritual man that's not there, that we were never intended to you might as well worship Nimrod. Baal, Tammuz, or the golden calf. They are the Goy's Elohim, the world's lawmakers and judges. I'll tell you, today I made probably 4, 5, 6. I think I rejected one. I think 6 friends on Facebook. But over half of them have everything. It's all about Yeshua. It's all about Yeshua. I think, do I take these people as friends? They're not going to like me. But how can I get the truth to them? Little by little. Piece by piece. Truth by truth. Until one day they begin to see, oh my goodness, I have learned lies, worthless and unprofitable things. I have been following the Goy's Elohim, the Goyim's Elohim. Goyim, the Goyim's Elohim is what it says. Wow. Don't want to go there. It's going to get you killed. Talking about the blessings and the curses. They left the statutes and the judgments of Yehovah, their Elohim, and they went and served other Elohim. Folks, you're going to die. Those who call on the name of Yehovah shall be saved, it says in Joel chapter 2. Isaiah 43 says something like, there is no other Elohim but me. Talking about Yehovah. I am Yehovah. There is no other Elohim but me. Even I am Yehovah. And besides me, there is no Savior. Yet what do? We make it all about Yeshua, the golden calf. Lord, Lord! Isn't that what we're going to do in the last days? That's what most of them are going to do. Didn't we call on your name? No, get out of here. He says, I never knew you. Well, he's not talking about Yeshua. Yehovah's going to say, I never knew you. It all comes from building our theology based on New Testament ideas that were given to us by the Catholic Church. It's going to get us killed. So that there may not be among you man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away today from Yehovah, your Elohim, to go and serve the Elohim of the Goyim, that there may not be among you a root bearing bitterness or wormwood. And so it may not happen when he hears the words of this curse, that he blesses himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace, even though I follow the dictates of my own heart. This is where all the Christians are. This is where most Messianic people are at. Blessing themselves, thinking they have the blessings and they've never left the Elohim of their birth. They aren't doing, I'm talking to ladies now, they aren't doing what they were created to do. Follow their man. The men aren't doing what they were created to do, following Yehovah. They're following the Elohim of the nations, the Elohim of the Goyim. Hard words. Tough words. But would you rather have the lies? You're okay. Go and do whatever you want. No, I can't do that. The words are too plain. We've seen them for too long. Every Sabbath we see it. Deuteronomy, it's been a bit harder. But we still know the truth because we've seen it. He says, I shall have peace even though I follow the dictates of my own hearts. I love this. As though a drunkard could be included with the sober. Hello? As though the righteous could be included with the Belial, the wicked and worthless men. Pshaw, you silly people. Next verse says, Yehovah would not spare him. For then the anger of Yehovah and his jealousy would burn against that man. Oh, you know what? Here it is again. I'm sure this is Ish. Against that man, against that Ish. Yehovah is not coming to judge women. They're pretty much going to get what the men get, or what the animals get, unless they've learned to serve their man. Then their man will be taken away. But Yehovah, like Abigail, is going to see that they find their way to a righteous man. But first, ladies, you've got to become a woman of worth. You don't come to Yehovah. You don't come at Passover. You don't circumcise yourself. You don't come to the temple. You don't bring a sin offering. Only your man can do that. His jealousy would burn against that man. And every curse that is written in the book would settle on him. And Yehovah would blot his name from under heaven. We always want to make it about the book of life. He's going to blot his name from under heaven. Wipe it out. Wipe out him. Wipe out his seed. Blot out his name from under the heavens. Oh, that's really interesting that he doesn't say heaven. He says heavens. Heavens. Do you know that today my heavens are different than all of your heavens? Except for you, Carrie. We're under the same heaven. The heavens is where the birds fly. In the heavens. To blot out a man's name from under the heavens is to kill him and all his seed, his sons. A daughter would provide seed for another man, not her father. Yeah, the seed doesn't go through the woman, it goes through the man. That's why it's always Israel's seed. Not Israel's son, not Israel's children, not Israel's man. Israel's seed. The spiritually born seed. I always got to remember to keep this up high so that you can see it on the video. I put the heavens is where the birds fly. Look at this. This is Deuteronomy 28. No, I guess this is 28. This is we were talking about. Excuse me. We were talking about last week blessings and the curses. This is part of the must be the curses. Yehovah will change the rain of thy land to powder and dust from the heavens. There it is right there. The Shamim. It shall come down on thee until thou art destroyed. Yeah, it's a big dust storm. You're right. And Yehovah would separate him from all the tribes of Israel. Who's him? The man that went off and served other Elohim. Now, the next article I'm going to write, this is about Israel. We went and served Yehovah, and then we left and served other Elohim. That's the pig going back to its wallow, the dog going back to its vomit. But most of us, men, are virgins of Babylon. We've never been Yehovah's. You can't be a harlot if you never left. You're a virgin of Babylon. Well, that's Yehovah being sarcastic in Isaiah 47 verse 1. But it's so true. I was a virgin of Babylon until I was about 45 years old, when my eyes began to open and I left the kingdom of my birth, got rid of my driver's license, social security numbers, all the covenants that I had with them, and tried to be Yehovah's man. Well, it took me a few more years because I was new. I was a babe. But it wasn't long before I realized that if I'm going to be Yehovah's man, that maybe I should be following his statutes and his judgments and his ordinances. And it all came down from there. But I didn't do any of his ordinances until I left the kingdoms of my birth. Well, here he's saying that he, Yehovah, would separate him from the tribes of Israel for adversity, according to the curses of the covenant that are written in the book of the law. Well, isn't this the book of the law? Maybe not. Maybe the book of the law is those things that Yehovah spoke to us at Sinai. They say this book of the law. Something's going on here. We need to dig deeper. So now look what it says. So that the coming generations of your... They put children. It's not children. It's sons. Here's the word. The coming generation of your... Look what it says. This is Benim. Benim, your Benim. Okay, it doesn't have the mem there because it's got the kaf mem, which is your, the plural your. But because it's got that yod, it's not B'nai, it's Benim. It's Benim, your sons. So that the coming generations of your sons who rise up after you, and the foreigner who comes from a far land. Remember the foreigner, the Nokri man, or the Ben Nakar sometimes. Did I do that one? I'm not sure if I did. No, I didn't. Would say when they see the plagues of that land and the sicknesses which Yehovah has laid on it. This is sicknesses, plagues that Yehovah lays on the land. Well, he's going to lay it on you when you're in that land. He goes on. He says, the whole land is brimstone, salt, and burning. Sound like anything we know? Sodom and Gomorrah, that's where he's going with this verse. The whole land is brimstone, salt, and burning. This is what we're going to see in the last days. Remember, it talks about a garden before them, and behind them a burning wilderness. Oh, it says it about Yehovah. I wrote it in my article this week. If you read my article, you'll see that. It talks about Yehovah coming. In fact, I got to go back to Psalms. Let me go back to Psalms. We'll come back here. I'll mark this verse. But we're going to go back to Psalms because I want to have you see this Psalms 50 from verse 1. Look what it says. It says, the El of Elohim, Yehovah, has spoke and called the earth from the rising of the sun to the going down. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, Elohim will shine forth. For Elohim shall come, listen to what he says, and shall not keep silent. A fire shall devour before him, and it shall be very tempestuous around him. There's the fire burning. Look what it says in Joel chapter 2. Joel chapter 2, right at the beginning. A fire. No, here, let's start reading at verse 2. A day of darkness and gloominess. This is the day that Yehovah is coming. A day of clouds and thick darkness, like the morning cloud spread over the mountains. A people come, great and strong, the like of whom has never been, nor will there ever be any such after them, even for many successive generations. Listen what it says. A fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is like a garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Surely nothing shall escape. Serve other elohim, and you will not escape. Ladies, serve your man. Don't have one? Get one. Men, leave the kingdom of your birth and serve only Yehovah. You can't serve two masters. Going back. Must be Deuteronomy 29:23. The whole land is brimstone. There it is. Salt and burning. It is not sown, nor does it bear, nor does any grass grow there. Like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, which Yehovah overthrew in his anger and his wrath. They were serving the Elohim of the world. He says, all nations would say, why has Yehovah done this to the land? You know, in this last days, we have really two Israels on the earth right now. One is the capital S, capital I, capital S, capital R, capital A, capital E, capital L. That's the Israel, the state that's over there in our land. But there's another Israel that has left the kingdom of their birth, entered into covenant with Yehovah, and become the spiritual men, the Ezrach. That Israel, the state, oh, here it is right here. I think it's getting ready to do this to Israel. The Israel, the state. There it is right there. Israel, the state. And then to the whole world. Remember, judgment starts first in the Father's house. The whole world's going to say what they're saying right here. Then people would say, because they have forsaken the covenant of Yehovah, of their fathers, which he made with them. Remember, we're talking about Bnei Israel, the spiritual men, when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. For they went and served other Elohim, lawmakers and judges, and worshiped them. The Lamb of God. Folks, you're going to perish. They went and served other Elohim and worshiped them, Elohim that they did not know, that he had not given to them. Then, verse 27, then the anger of Yehovah was roused against this land, to bring on it every curse that is written in this book. Yehovah is getting ready to do this, folks, to the world. Remember when we were going through the blessings and the curses last week, we saw many of the plagues, the locusts, the darkness, the hail, that were part of the curses. We're going to see him again. Only the hail that we're going to see is going to be like the hail that Sodom and Gomorrah saw. We're talking 75-pound pieces of hail burning from the sky. He's coming and sending it from the heavens, the Shamim, just like he said he would. Where did I leave off? 27. Then the anger of Yehovah was aroused against this land to bring on it every curse that is written in this book. Well, this book, remember, it's not about this book. The curses that Yehovah gave us from Sinai were in Leviticus 26. Moses is just reiterating them in this book. This book. What book are we talking about? The book that he made at Sinai, or the book that Moses is doing right now? Again, it's confusing, isn't it? Yehovah uprooted them from their land in his anger. Hear that? Uprooted them. Who's the them? Bnei Israel. Why? Because we weren't serving him. We were serving other elohim. Nimrod, Tammuz, Asherah, other Elohim, the Elohim of the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar, the Elohim of the Assyrians. I forget what his name was. There's lots of them. Same with the Egyptians. Who was the Pharaoh? We wouldn't serve them. Other Elohim. And Yehovah uprooted them in the land in his anger, in his wrath, and in great indignation, and cast them into another land as it is this day. These are prophetic words, because this is where we are this day. And the next chapter is going to be what Yehovah says we can do from the land where he has cast us out. He says the secret things belong to Yehovah, our Elohim. But those things which are revealed belong to us and our sons. Not our children, our sons. Remember, spiritual sons beget spiritual sons. We circumcise all the men of our household. Our sons grow up learning the statutes and judgments and ordinances of Yehovah. Their sisters grow up learning to serve the sons and their fathers. And it all works together. That we, the sons, us and our sons, that we may do all the words of this Torah. All right, well, I thought we'd get to 30 today. 30's not that long. Now, okay, we're just talking about getting cast out. Remember, let's keep it in context. Look what it says. And Yehovah uprooted them from the land in anger, in wrath, in great indignation, and cast them into another land, as it is this day. Folks, men, we have been so long in the land, we do not even know who we are. But even now, Yehovah is moving in the hearts of men. I always tell people when they become my Facebook friends, I'm always looking for people who want to know Yehovah, his ways and his ways. I says, but I am especially looking for men. I'll even write it to the ladies. I'm especially looking for men, however. Glad you're my friend, but I'm looking especially for men. Why? Because I'm interested in raising a kingdom. If we can find enough of these Ezra men that will come out early like Moses did, like Aaron did, we can bring about the millennial kingdom. I think we're not waiting on Yehovah. He's waiting on us. He cast us out, as it is this day. But now look at the next chapter. Now it shall come to pass, when all these things have come upon you, the blessings and the curses which I have set before. Look at now, this is saying on you. This is not on ye. Now these are all on thee and thy and thou. The whole chapter. The chapter before was all about Israel. But now he's going back to individual men. Why? Because it's all about the individual man repenting, leaving the kingdom of his birth, circumcising himself and all the men of his household, and becoming Israel again, which I have set before thee. And thou call them to mind among the nations where Yehovah thy elohim has driven thee. And thou return, there it is, and thou return to Yehovah. Awake, awake, come out of Babylon. And thou return to Yehovah thy elohim, and obey his voice, Obama's voice, the mayor's voice, the governor's voice. How about the prime minister's voice for those who are in other countries? The king's voice. No, his voice, Yehovah's voice. According to all that I command you today. There's that today again. You, thou, and thy sons. How? With all thy heart and with all thy soul. Remember, it begins with the circumcision of the heart. That's when a man leaves the kingdom of his birth and joins himself to Yehovah. We don't love Yehovah if we won't obey him with all our heart and with all our soul. Remember, the heart is the thing that only Yehovah can discern. David had a heart after Yehovah. Jeremiah 17 says, the heart is deceitful above all things, desperately wicked. Who can know it? He says, I, Yehovah, search the heart. I test the mind, even to give every man, every ish, according to his deeds, according to the fruit of his actions. Heart is the spirit of the man. The soul is the thoughts and the emotions, the nefesh. Animals have thoughts and emotions, but they don't have the spirit. We have to let our spirits be renewed to Yehovah's spirit, and let that spirit then influence our thoughts and our emotions, which will influence our actions, and that is what every ish, all ish, kol ish, are judged by. Their actions, not their thoughts. Contrary to what Yeshua supposedly said. I say to you, if you think it in your heart, so is it. You've done it already. Please, you're killing me. Love Yehovah with all your heart, with all your soul. Here's Nehemiah 1, 8 through 8 and 9. Remember, I pray, the words that you commanded your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me, Keep my commandments and do them. Return to him. You can't return to him without leaving your old Elohim. You can only serve one master. You return to me. Keep my commandments and do them. Though some of you were cast out to the furthest part of the heavens, I will gather them from there. This is what Yehovah is doing even now in these last days. He's moving in the hearts of men. They are leaving their Elohim, joining themselves to Yehovah, becoming his, Ger. And then at Passover, becoming the Ezrach, his heir, Israel. The kind, his kind, the saints who entered into Berith, cutting with him by a cutting at the slaughter. And bring them to the place which I have chosen as a dwelling for my name. We don't even know where that place is going to be. Here's another one. This is Leviticus 26. This will be the blessings and the curses. He says, but if they confess their iniquity, and the iniquity of their fathers, not their mothers, with their unfaithfulness in which they were unfaithful to me, that they also have walked contrary to me, and that I also have walked contrary to them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies. He says, if their uncircumcised hearts are humbled, and they accept their guilt. Folks, saying you're going to keep the Passover or keep the Sabbath is not a circumcision of the heart. Saying you're going to start eating clean means nothing. Until you become Israel, until you leave, he didn't give any commandments to the Gentiles. He gave them to his son, Israel. Until you leave, you're not his. That's the circumcision of the heart. Leaving one kingdom, joining yourself to Yehovah and becoming his servant. Then I will remember my covenant with Jacob, my covenant with Isaac, and my covenant with Abraham. I will remember, and I will remember the land. He's going to remember the land and the seed. That's what it's all about. And you return to Yehovah, your Elohim, and obey his voice. According to all that I command you today, you and thou and thy sons, with all thine heart and with all thine soul, that Yehovah, thy Elohim, this is again, all these are second person masculine singular, that Yehovah, thy Elohim, will bring thee back from captivity. Hallelujah! You know, that's the good news. The good news is that the Gentile can become a son of Elohim. Wow, that's good news. But it ain't going to happen if you won't leave. You got to leave your Babylon. You got to leave your Egypt. That Yehovah, thy Elohim, will bring thee back from captivity, and have compassion on thee, and gather thee again from the nations, from all the nations where Yehovah, thy Elohim, has scattered thee. He's talking to men, not women. Oh, I know this is so hard to grasp. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. He says, though thou be driven out among the out unto the utmost part of heaven, from thence will Yehovah thy Elohim gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. Look at that. The uttermost parts of the heavens. Isn't that exactly what we saw in Nehemiah just a second ago? Where was that verse? Has cast thee out to the farthest part of the heavens. There it is right there. Farthest part of the heavens. Farthest part of the heavens. There it is there. From there, Yehovah thy Elohim will gather thee, and from there he will bring thee back, is what he's saying. Then Yehovah thy Elohim will bring thee to the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. He shall prosper thee and multiply thee more than thy fathers. Praise you, Yehovah. I can't wait to live in the millennial kingdom, where I can be under my own tree and reap the blessings that I have sown. Oh, what a glorious day that's going to be. I'll sit under the tree and teach my sons Yehovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances, my descendants, my seed. Look at the next verse. And Yehovah your Elohim will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your descendants. Remember, he just said to Israel in the land of Moab today that you're a rebellious lot. You don't have eyes that see, you don't have ears that hear, you don't have a heart that understands. But if you will return to Yehovah, confess your sins and the sins of your fathers, Yehovah will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants, your seed, men, sons, to love Yehovah thy Elohim with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that thou may live. Seed, that's a beautiful word. The Ezrach are the spiritual seed. But I like the word seed for Israel's seed instead of Israel's sons, because it conveys the idea of multi-generational seed, because seed produces after its own kind. And I like seed too because it's plural. It's can be seen individual and it can be seen plural. When we talk about the Ezra man, there's no plural form of Ezra. Israel is the Ezra. But one man is also the Ezra. It's the seed. I like that. It fits so well. Also, Yehovah thy Elohim will put all these curses on thine enemies and on those who hate thee, who persecuted thee. Ooh, payback's going to be a real you-know-what. I put finally, payback. And thou, man, head of the family, and thou will again obey the voice of Yehovah, and do all his commandments which I command thee today. Yehovah thy Elohim will make thee abound in the work of thy hands, in the fruit of thy body, the increase of thy livestock, the produce of thy land. The ladies don't have land. For Yehovah will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over thy fathers. Thy livestock. Oh, I like that. That's good. Yeah, over thy livestock. Thy livestock, the behemoth. The behemah, remember we're talking about four-footed animals, the clean animals, the animals that we're talking about that we're raising. herds, flocks, flocks being herds, being cattle, flocks being sheep and goats. By saying behema, he gets them all. Well chosen word for that translation. But he says, if you obey the voice of Yehovah thy Elohim to keep his commandments, his statutes, which are written in the book, and he put in this book of the law. You know, I really got to check out that and find out if it says this or that. This book of the law. You know, again, I wonder who actually wrote Deuteronomy. In the book of the law, this book of the law. And if thou turn to Yehovah thy Elohim with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Look at how many times in these last two chapters we've been seeing all thy heart and all thy soul. For this commandment which I command thee today is not too mysterious for you, nor is it too far off. It's not in heaven, that thou might say, who will ascend into the heavens? It's not in the heavens. Remember, they didn't have planes in those days. Didn't have rocket ships. Who will ascend into the heavens for us and bring it to us that we may hear it and do it? We may shemot, probably is what it says. Nor is it beyond the sea that thou should say, who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us that we may hear and do it? He says, but the word is very near thee, in thy mouth, in thy heart, that thou may do it. See, I have set before thee today life and good, death and evil. In that I command thee today to love, there it is again, to love Yehovah thy Elohim. Elohim, lawmaker and judge, not Obama, not the mayor, not the governor. Yehovah, thy Elohim, to walk in his ways, to keep his commandments, his statutes, his judgments, that thou may live and multiply. And Yehovah, thy Elohim, will bless thee in the land which thou go to possess. Thou goes to possess. Sometimes you got to read it differently because of the thou and the thee. Which thou goes to possess. I'm planning on possessing some land. But now we got the negative. We're going to get this finished today. But if your heart turns away so that and thou shall not shall not hear and obey. There it is, shema. Thou shalt not shema. Hear and obey. I told you that was the word, hear and obey. But if your heart turns away so that thou does not shema, does not hear and obey, and are drawn away and worship other Elohim and serve them. See, this is where we get confused. We make other Elohim statues and statues, gold, wood, silver, clay statues, don't we? That's what we make Elohim. And we don't understand that that's the second commandment. Second commandment is thou shalt not worship any graven image. But the first one is you shall have no other Elohim, lawmaker, or judge but me. And because we confuse the first with the second, we think we're not doing the second. We're not doing the first because we're not doing the second. You follow what I'm saying? We screw it up. But we don't know what an Elohim is. We worship other Elohim and serve them. Your papers, please? Let me see who you serve. But if your heart turns away so that you do not hear and obey, and are drawn away and worship other Elohim and serve them, that's why we wear these tzitzit. The Ezra men. Why? So that we remember to keep all Yehovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances, and not go after or not commit the harlotry to which thy own heart and our own eyes are inclined. Our heart, my eyes can still go after other Elohim. Yeah, they don't do it so much now. There was a point where I was inclined to. But I've been out so long, I don't even think about it anymore. Health care? Mandatory health care? Like that means anything to me? Taxes? I haven't been involved in that system for years. Because I don't worship other Elohim and serve them. I announce to thee today that thou shalt surely perish. You serve other Elohim, you shall surely perish. Thou shalt not prolong thy days in the land which thou crosses over the Jordan to go in and possess. He says, I call heaven and earth as witness today against thee. You think, nobody saw me do that. I did it in secret. No one caught me. Got to have 2 or 3 witnesses. Well, here's both of them. That's right. Here it is, Deuteronomy 30. I guess that is this verse. Here's Deuteronomy 4. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that you will soon utterly perish from the land which you cross over the Jordan to possess, that you will not prolong thy days in it, but will be utterly destroyed. 19. I call heaven and earth as witness today against thee, that I have set before thee life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy descendants. Who are your descendants? Your seed. The seed, it's your seed. This doesn't say sons, it says seed. Your descendants, here it is right here, Zerah, your seed. Remember, Heth has seed. Esau has seed. Jacob has seed. Noah has seed. Well, so do I have seed. My sons are my seed. Well, I actually have natural seed, flesh seed, and I also have spiritual seed. Because every year, because of my teaching, more men are becoming my spiritual seed. Some of you may become my spiritual seed. I hope you will. Isaiah 54 talks about the desolate man bearing more sons than the married woman. Oh, that's an incredible teaching. It's on my site. Here we go. I do this for my video, so it keeps it up on top. He says this, that thou may love Yehovah thy Elohim. There it is again. That thou may obey his voice, and that thou may cling to him, for he is thy life, and the length of thy days, that thou may dwell in the land which Yehovah swore to thy fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give them. Wow, 103. Let's stop here. Next week, we're going to talk about what we saw today. I am 120 years old today. You know what? 31, 32, 33, 34. We've only got 4 chapters left in the Torah. Now, we were also going to do some of Joshua. I think it's really important that we at least do through Joshua 6, because I want you to see that the very first thing we did before we took the promised land, before Jericho even fell, with a great shaking of the earth, which is going to happen at the beginning of the tribulation, that we kept Passover. You got to understand how important this Passover is. Okay, well, I guess if I have questions, I'd be very happy to ask or answer your questions. But you know what? I have a YouTube channel. Did you guys know that I have a YouTube channel right now? Let me show you how to get to it, and maybe you'll subscribe to it. If you go to my teaching right here, Blessings and the Curses is the last one I did. You can click on it, and when it opens, there is going to be a video down at the bottom of it. It's last week's video. And if you will click on it and then click on the YouTube, it'll take you to my YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to all of my videos. I've already got 5 or 6 people that have subscribed to my videos. I'm so excited to have this information out, and I can't wait to do this each week over the next 3 or 4 years, to be able to put all of my Torah teaching now to video. Ooh, it's so much more interesting to be able to see it this way. All right, well, if there's no other questions, love y'all. Thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. All right, bye guys.